Mr. Street. Please, before we get started with the show, it's important that you are, number one, you are sharing this video. So don't even bother just sitting there and waiting. I need you to start sharing your screen so that we can share the good news with your audience, with our audience, because again, the Black Podcast is about spreading the knowledge and making connections, and we can only grow if we share. So please make sure that you're sharing the video. We do have a special guest in the building today. I don't even, the resume for him is just going to be extremely long, so we ain't going to get in too much of details about him just yet. But I do want you to know that the Black Podcast, we stream every Thursday here at 4 p.m. Central Time. So please make sure that you are supporting us in that. I'm going to go ahead and share it to my Facebook page. B, are you on yours?
I am.
Okay, because I don't see it yet.
I think our platform has had some updates and is not wanting to directly stream to Facebook. We're gonna have to make some tweaks moving forward, but I'm gonna make sure we are live on YouTube and on Twitch. So I'm gonna make sure those are shared through Facebook so we can get our audience tune in one way or another.
Yes, you got the YouTube up for us as well?
Yep, I'm about to post it here shortly.
Okay, cool. So thank you for logging in or tuning in to the Black Podcast. My name is Dr. Sherelle Hobson. I'm your student athlete resilience coach, and I'm also your athletic program enthusiast. And a lot of you know that I'm very passionate about, number one, athletics, and also our youth being productive in the transition of leaving from high school or college into their life. So I created a program that helps high school coaches to increase 90% matriculation within their program, because it's not just about sports, but it's about what can you get out of these sports. So I have created a program to help coach coaches to make their programs more productive. I'm also an international author of 2 books called Seams of Gold, Discovering Beauty and Brokenness, as well as Unleashing Your Full Potential. Both of these books really help to provide people, men and women, with the tools to acknowledge where they are in their space. A lot of us, of course, Black people, we're just naturally resilient. So we just we're moving and shaking. But that doesn't mean that we haven't spent that necessary time with ourselves to acknowledge where we really are, either physically or spiritually or wherever we are in our own space. But the thing I'm most passionate about, of course, is being productive in the Black community, in particular to our youth as well as our educational system. So thank you guys for tuning in to the Black Podcast.
Yes, so I mean, she always, busts out the gate with all her wonderful accomplishments. I'm just so thankful to be attached to her and be able to glean from some of her wisdom, but also bring what I bring to the table. A few years back, I started a social business called Your Legacy Begins Now, where I really focus on partnering with various different companies to generate revenue to go towards the development and the sustainability of mentoring programs, leadership programs, to really help our youth that are going through those teenage years to transition to that next stage in life. As of recent, I've really been focusing on helping make sure that we understand the importance of group economics, so that we support one another. We make sure that we pour into one another and we promote one another so that we can keep that dollar in our community for a longer period of time. And then at the same time, making sure that we use that to continue to pour into that next generation, into that next generation, to that next generation. Coming up throughout my adolescent years, I used to always see my peers that were very singularly focused. And a lot of the things that we need to know, we need to have access to as adults, they were never aligned with those things. So really moving forward throughout this month and the next couple of months, we're looking to make sure that there's not that one pathway that our next generation sees, but we make sure that support is there to show them that there are so many different ways that you can go and be successful in that next stage in life. So our guest today actually is going to be the first of many to really show what his process has looked like and be that example for those who are coming behind him. So who do we have today? There we go.
Hey, how y'all doing? Thanks for having me on.
Well,
man.
thank you. Thank you for being a guest and just being open to our invitation. I truly appreciate, it's always nice when you can see somebody, you can see them and then you can actually get to touch them. It's like, okay, well, all right. Because, sometimes some of us get a little bit, we can't even contact half those people unless we go through at least 29,000 people. So I do appreciate you spending time with us today. And I know you've been busy, but we are just definitely humbled to have you on.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. So we're going to dive right in. We did already put your bio up there, and hey, if they didn't want to take the time to look it up, that's their fault. But they're going to learn today because we're going to talk. But we wanted to go ahead and get started on. Give us a little bit of a background on where you were from and what your household looked like. What was your life like just from the beginning?
From the beginning, I moved around a lot. I from East Texas, little small towns. My mother was a basketball coach, so we moved around a lot based on her job. So I spent a lot of times in East Texas. I always tell people I'm from Center Texas. That's where I spent my last 2 years, and that's when, athletically things start to show up on for me. So I moved around a lot, but I spent my last 2 years in Center, and that's where I got, started playing football and started getting known athletically for what I've done.
So when you started sports in middle school or high school. Before that, when did you
I
begin your first experience in athletics?
I started sports playing basketball in middle school. And for the whole time, I always thought I was a hooper. My mom, she was a big inspiration for me. She was Hall of Fame basketball player. She played, Stephen F. Austin. Then she played at Panola Junior College. Panola Junior College, then Stephen F. Austin. And then she went on to play for the Olympics. And then she went on to play for Pan American Games. And then she played for the professional league for a year and a half. And she was just a big inspiration for me based off how much she accomplished in her years and what type of character she was. She was just super cool, down to earth, all about God, and that's who was inspired to me. So I was a basketball player all through middle school, through high school, and then I really just tried my shot in football my junior year.
Okay. So when you talk about just the journey, like your mom being an inspiration to you, so she's been in athletics her whole life. It looks like you always kind of watched, either going to games or just seeing her be active. Um, when you decided, okay, I was going to go play basketball. Because like when I ran track, I started running very small. So it was something that I enjoyed doing. I don't know if my parents were like, she just need to run because she run her mouth so much. Maybe she need to apply it to her feet. I don't know. But I started, track very, very early. And so when you think about your conversations with your mom, was sports something that your mother pushed like in your house? Like you need to be doing something.
Yeah.
Was basketball that kind of conversation? Like you're going to be playing this basketball. You too tall not to play basketball. Like what was that conversation when you decided, okay, I'll just play, I'll play basketball? Because it seems like for you to start in middle school, it's not considered late, but it's kind of like late,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So how was that conversation with your mother growing up?
My mother, she really didn't force it on me like that. I kind of forced it on myself. I remember, when she'd be coming home, when I was a kid, I would always go play at my friend's basketball goal. I would just shoot all day, and I would just be so happy when she come. I could shoot for her, see I can make the goal. So I kind of forced it on myself, But she was always the type of person, just stay active, but never force sports on me like that.
Like from my study when I have my doctor's in sports administration and leadership, and my study was on the African American males and the effects of athletics on their educational plans.
Mhm.
And what I found out by interviewing a lot of in particular young Black males as well as coaches, that was the conversation in the house all the time, you know. And so a lot of the youth, young men had the, you know, the pressure of like, I have to make it because
Yeah,
this is like
yeah.
a big, you know, a big deal in our family. And I know like in ours, the conversation was more like you need to be in something. And I don't know if it's going to be sports, but you're not going to sit around every summer just sitting here. So that was more our focus. But what from my study, what I found out even through my experience coaching, that a lot of them young Black men feel the pressure of, you know, I have to do sports and I have to be good at it, right? Because I'm tall, I'm supposed to play basketball. But I remember having a student one time and he used to always walk into the gym and he'd be like, "What's up, coach?" I'll be like, "What's up?" And then he'll do from a stand-in. He'll just stand and jump and touch the rim. Boom, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
are you serious? And immediately, like all the coaches from like, I don't even know where they came from. They sprint across like, "Hey, you want to play basketball? You want to play, you know,
Yeah,
football?
yeah, yeah.
You want to high jump?" And this boy was like, "No, I like to dance." And they were like, "For real, dog?" Like, you know, and
Yeah, yeah,
in my head, I was thinking, like, seriously? But
yeah,
you know, when I started thinking, at least he wants to be active in something. But you
yeah,
know, to see him come in there every day in the gym, and like this boy's in his 8th grade, 7th grade at the time, and he would just stand up, you'd be talking to him, he'd just jump up, boom, and just hit the top of the rim. Everybody was like, "You got to be kidding me." So you didn't feel that pressure of like, okay, I have to be good in basketball or I have to make this transition. So when you started in middle school, did you begin to start having a love for it when you decided to get to high school? Or was it like everybody had already started calling you about like when you know, when you get to high school, we're going to do this with you? How
yeah.
was that conversation or how was that?
I think I made a there was like a little promise note I made once I started taking, because I'm the one who kind of forced sports on me, and I want to be good and I want to be a professional athlete. So I was the one who put that personal pressure on myself. I moved around a lot, so I really didn't have, much close friends through, my upper until my middle school to my until I started getting to high school. But I kind of put pressure on myself to make it, to be successful. So, when I started playing basketball in middle school and high school, that's when I started really focusing and, writing down my goals, my dreams. So I'm the one who kind of wanted to put that pressure on myself because I saw how, being a professional athlete can change your family's life, financially. You can put them in better situations for as better schools, better neighborhoods, better every it creates time when you have finances. So I saw that was a way out and help my family out. So
Yeah,
so
and that's a lot of the story of a lot of the young men. They were like, "Hey, my mom, you know, I have to make it because we don't have money, or I have, you know, this and that." But what I learned from some of the coaches, they struggled with really understanding who their athletes were. Um, when people, especially professional athletes, I always felt like our young men always felt like they had to have like this traumatic story behind them
mhm.
making it, right? Like, oh, I was sleeping underneath the bridge. I was, so it was always like, so I had a lot of conversations with a lot of young men who felt like, maybe my story is not strong enough for me to make it.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
they almost felt like because that's what even when you look at a lot of like ESPN or all this, that's the first thing they talk about. Oh, we got such and such, when we met him, he was, behind the
Hmm.
dumpster, and
Yeah,
so it was
yeah,
like, dang, so it creates this story like your story is not good enough.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, do you feel like that is usually like what it is? Like people want to know, like, okay, what else? Like, what else was on in your life that made it whatever?
Well, I think from what I've scoped from some of the best players in the world came from a struggle. Either you got to find motivation to be the best in either your pain, or you got to find motivation in accomplishments. And like for instance, I hear LeBron. He talked about how he moved around a lot. His family was poor, and every year or every month he is always have to move with him and his mom. And he talked about how finances, so how his father wasn't in life, so I no doubt he drove inspiration through that trauma and through that pain and made become the player he is today. Michael Jordan, he had a family. Kobe Bryant, he had mom and dad in the household. They lived overseas. He was playing professional basketball, and Kobe's one of the greats. I don't think he didn't have a bad traumatic poor situation, but he became one of the greatest basketball players ever. So I think when it comes to guys, you know, they have to draw some inspiration from somewhere, either from pain, from struggle, or wanting to be the best. So it has to come from those components.
Yeah, it's one of the things. I've done lots of training, received lots of training in the entrepreneurial space over the years, and it's often they say you have to see what you want. You do your vision board, write out your vision. You got to see what you want, but a lot of times these kids they don't know what that
Hmm.
looks like because all they've seen is what's around them. So that's when they have to flip the script and say, you know what? Let me show you what I don't want. I don't want this no more. I don't want that no more. And that becomes that drive. Now, I know that was something that I saw coming up around me. And that was part of my drive to push me forward. No, I didn't make it to that next stage in athletics, but I made sure to continue to be that support for those who I knew, look, you can go to that next level. I might not be going, but I'm here for you throughout that process.
Yeah.
So when it comes to that, your peers, a lot of times when people see you going to that next level, you have people that are going to jump on, all right,
Mhm.
Mike going to the next level. I got to get close to him. Or those who may say, I mean, he good, but he ain't that good. So, I'm going to go, a bandwagon on for sure over here. Like, what
Yeah. Yeah.
was that like now with peers and maybe with, authority figures? Did you see any dynamics in that space start to like come towards you when it was like a for sure, okay, he going to that next level? What was that like for you?
Uh, I came from a little small town, in Center Texas, maybe like 2 or 3 thousand people, and I remember, the last 2 years of my high school year, from football to basketball, like every week I was getting like some type of award, some type of honor, like basketball all stars, all state, football all state, all star game in football, all star game in basketball. I was getting all these awards, but you know, the school, the people, some of my peers, sports wasn't like a hot topic. But I say the people who did see a lot in me was my parents and my football coaches, my head coach, Paul Essery, and my D line coach, Billy Ferris. Those were the ones who told me, about, I guess, my second or third week into playing football, saying, like, look, you have the size, you have the ability, you can actually make it. And that's where that mindset was stemmed in me. So I say a lot of players, a lot of people. I think my parents and my two coaches in high school, the ones who kind of told me like, hey, if you keep playing like this and being productive, because sports is, when it all boils down to, it's all about production. You got to have numbers. You got to play hard and you got to have numbers. And for me, my numbers was coming up. I had a long arms, long body, lean body. I could get off blocks fairly easy. So, they told me after the third week, say, hey man, you keep playing the way you're playing, you have an opportunity to make it to the professional level. And I saw that as a way to help my parents and my family like they helped me.
Yeah.
So I think that's the one where it occurred to me that if I could stay on the straight and narrow path, play hard, stay out of trouble, I could make it.
So, um, just kind of stepping away, not just so much from football and your experience with that. So, several years ago, I lost my brother. Um, and I believe he was always, he was a collegiate athlete. He did semi, CFL football. That was his life, right? when we're in athletics, and this was a struggle for me as well when I decided to write my book, Seams of Gold, Discovering Beauty and Brokenness. A lot of it was about, I really didn't understand, I didn't really know who I was outside of sports. I guess I really didn't spend that time with myself. Because when you're known, or your identity is always attached to your performance, right? Oh, there goes Michael. Wait, he's number such and such from the such and such and the such and such and the such and such. And like, I was always one of those people that even in college, like somebody would say, oh, that guy, he's going to make it to this and that. And I wasn't interested. Like, I want to know who the person is. I could care less about all the other stuff, but when I was done with track, and I remember trying to make it to the Olympics, or going to the Olympic, what they call like a last minute trial, where you're trying to get on the practice team or whatever, didn't make it. And I just felt devastated. I remember laying on the track, literally like, what am I supposed to be doing now? Like, I thought my whole life I would be going to the Olympics. I already knew what tattoo I was going to get, with the rings. And even though everybody and their grandmother probably has that tattoo, but I just knew mine was going to be original. And so I had my mind focused on that. So then I kind of transferred that identity or that motivation to becoming a coach. So then I started coaching, and I was, doing that. So with my brother, he made it to a certain point, but he knew that he should have went further. And everybody knew him from either his football number, his athletic ability, just knew him from football. And so I think a lot of his depression, and he had ended up having, they said, congested heart failure. I feel like it was attached to him, like in depression. How do you separate for yourself your identity in sports and who you are when you're not, with the shoulder pads and interviewing, and, what is that conversation with that person?
For one, I had to go through a transition phase. You know, speak to therapists, because so far, I was the type of person, I put all my eggs into football. I didn't have a plan B, because if I had a plan B, I didn't believe in plan A. So when, unfortunately, I got hurt and couldn't play anymore, I had to go through a transitional phase and seek therapy, have somebody to talk to. Talking to your friends and family, that's one thing. And they're your family. They're gonna tell you what you want to hear. But it's always good to talk to somebody outside, neutral, that can give their unbiased opinion. So anybody that's want to attach from their sports, their athletic world, I say, seek therapy, have somebody to talk to about your anxiety, your fears, your goals, anything you want to do outside of life. So it was a transitional stage that I had to do. I had to take a lot of transitional things to do to transfer out of football, knowing that my career was over and I didn't have, I had to find a secondary career. So
Yeah.
I say, had to seek therapy.
Now let's sit on that one for a little bit, because I know, especially in the Black community, it's very stigmatized to seek therapy,
Mm-hmm.
especially with men. Like, you're supposed to be strong, deal with it,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Us too.
Yeah, the strong Black woman. Hey, she gonna deal with it. And
Yeah.
we make the automatic assumption, but then there becomes that stigma. What was that process like for you? Like, were there those around you like, man, what you going to therapy for, man? Like, you don't need, like, what was that process like for you?
Well, I really didn't talk to. I'm the same way. I really didn't talk to people. I'm going to therapy. I'm typically a person who likes to keep what's going on with me in house with me, and and because I know I had to, because I didn't want to worry my mother, didn't want to talk to my brother and then my close friends or family, because I was the type of person who if I'm dealing with something, I just work on it internally. But I knowing that I just I had to talk, at least talk to somebody who could listen, that
Yeah.
that really helped me out, because like you said, there is a stigma. You're supposed to be a man. You're supposed to work things out. You don't need to talk to therapy. You don't talk to a therapist. You don't need to. You just need to work it out.
Yeah.
But you know, I was semi going to down that path, but I knowing that I just can't keep things inside. At least talk to somebody who can actually give me some positive bias advice
Yeah.
on how to move on to the next stage of my life.
Yeah, because it is a lot of pressure, like we talk about, and I thank you for sharing that part of your life with us, because people do look at that like, what you need that for, especially we don't create a safe place for each other, right? As
Mm-hmm.
especially as Black men and women. As a Black woman, if I tell somebody that I'm having a challenge or I'm having a bad day, it's like, oh, she crazy, she got too much going on. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Same thing with a Black man. If he has, he can't have a moment to say, hey, today I'm just not feeling, good, or I'm just not feeling myself, or, without somebody saying you weak, So we do carry that type of pressure, we get it from the outside, and then we also give it to each other. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I lost my brother, I struggled a lot with understanding, I felt almost like, man, I should really be super sad right now. Like I'm supposed to be feeling a certain way. Um, and because I wasn't, I almost had like this sense of peace. It was almost like God was just saying, like, I needed to protect him, like I needed to take him. So I started to have this peace, and I struggle with the peace, right? Like, okay, but I shouldn't be enjoying my life. I should be sad. I should be, um, and so I say all that to say, well, one day I decided, okay, well, I'm going to go see, I'm gonna go talk to a grieving counselor. And so I did, and I started talking to her, and she started talking about something totally different, So what was your life like, and how did you feel? And I was like, so my brother,
Mm-hmm.
and so long story short, it's been probably 6 years now, but I realized, because I do personal training and stuff on the side. But I felt like this is something I need to do more often. Even if it's me checking in with her to say, hey, I feel good this week, or hey, I felt, it was just almost like having like I told her she's like my personal trainer for my mental and my spiritual side, having that accountability on these are the things that you need to continue doing. Because I know that one thing that I struggled with, that she mentioned in one of my sessions, was you can't measure your happiness with your accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, how she know me like that? Because
Yeah.
I've always had this plan. I was like, if I do something, I'm gonna do it all the way. And that has been my thing my whole life. And it's worked for me in a lot of, areas, and it's kind of worked against me in a lot of areas, because I was so competitive in my life. Like if I'm gonna do sports, I'm gonna be the best one. Like I'm not trying to be just the regular person. I'm trying to be the best one out there. And so I carried that same type of trait or skills throughout my whole life. So I needed to be the best at everything I did. And she was like, where are you getting that from? And I was just like, it's a competition,
Yeah.
like, and she's like, with who? And I'm like, with me.
Yeah.
If I'm not winning, then I'm losing, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
lose. So how do you, when you look at like that whole transitioning of just what success looks like, because we have this picture of, what I like. Okay, I'm gonna make this amount of money, I'm gonna do this, and then 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and then now you get hurt and your whole plan that you had changed. um do you feel like you attached a lot of your life or your accomplishments to, or your happiness to, what you accomplished, or do you feel like eventually you started to find that place or discover other things that you liked throughout that journey of your life?
I feel like once I saw help, talk to people, seek therapy, and not only that, when I was going through my transitional stage, to stay active. I believe, I know once, I got hurt, I know I wrote down a list of careers I might be interested in. And at the top, I wrote down I have to go back to school and finish my degree. I left early and I didn't finish my degree at Texas A&M. So I told myself, hey, I need to go back to A&M and finish my degree first. and that will maybe platform, open up any career avenues uh, that might come available. So I think that kind of helped what I wanted to do and helped with the transitional process for me because I always thought about, I had a plan like I'm gonna play 10 years, I'm gonna retire, I'm gonna be a sports analyst, and go to the Hall of Fame. But I got hurt half the way, and and plus I was going through some other issues with trying to start a business and got involved with the wrong people, had to sue them, and so minus the retirement, minus going through all these litigations with lawsuits with the bad people I was working with, I had to go to square one, and I knew going to square one, going to finish my degree, and also just seeking out the next career path. Just trying multiple things and to see if I like it, because I just didn't want to just stay in a slump and just. I say the best way to get over through a transitional phase is to stay active.
Yeah. Yeah. And at any point did you feel like, man, I'm failing, or was you a little excited about, because sometimes in situations and God takes us through this journey, right? And a lot of times it's like we don't understand what he's, what all his plan is for us. Um, but did you ever look at that like I'm failing, or did you look at it, because I know you talked about your mother being, very faith driven. And so you have that conversation of God's working it out, and you're like, okay, but
Yeah,
God, like you know me, God, and you know that we had
yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
conversation of what we're supposed to be doing. So did you ever feel like have that struggle of like feeling like you were going backwards, or were you more open to the moving forward and really, learning, going back to school? Once you've been out of school for a while, it ain't. That's why I just kept going. Everybody's like, "You're so smart. You love school." It's like, no, because I knew if I stopped, it was
Yeah,
not going to get
yeah, I
finished.
wouldn't go. Yeah.
So I need to finish. So do you feel like how do you feel now that you went back and got that degree? Did you feel like was it more of an accomplishment having that paper than it
Mhm.
was making it? Like, what was that comparison for you?
Well, I think it was accomplishment in itself, um, and also a great opportunity to network. While I was back at A&M, I was fortunately that the coaching staff, the head coach asked me to, be a student coach. So I went on there and did and went for student coaching for a year, and that was a very successful time. So and it was a great networking opportunity. I made some real valuable relationships at A&M when I went back. So I think it was very far as a networking opportunity to go back and speak to people I went to school with, administration, because A&M, you know, you know, one thing that was very helpful in my transition stage was, reaching back to my old contacts. So I went to school with my alumni groups. It was very personable, and you never know with just networking to people you went to school with, they might can have something, and that's another key to what transitional stage that helped me through my process was networking with my old teammates at my college.
So in that space, the networking, like that's key. And a lot of people, whenever they're going through college, I look back to my days. I was trying my first few years. Let me try to fit in. Let me try to be perceived. So the relationships that I was building, the networks that I was starting to include myself in, they weren't really the networks that I needed to move into that next level or the next stage in life. Now, you mentioned that you started, or when you were starting in football, you were also getting into, starting a business, got involved with some of the wrong people. What would you say that specific experience plus moving forward, well, what did that experience teach you, and how did it affect you moving forward when it came to building those relationships that you were thinking, you know what, when I finish this football career, I need to have this type of network on the other side. So what did that decision of getting with the wrong people, that whole incident, what did that teach you when it came to building your network and those right relationships moving forward?
Just learning about the business you're in, and learning about the business you're in, and learning that the whole step of the process. You don't want to just join something and put your money in and walk away. You want to know like every process of everything, and have all the lawyers read over your contracts and documents. So I say just learning about the business you're doing, um, and also just be prepared to walk away. If you're putting in something, just be prepared to like look at it from a if all if things fall apart type of situation. So I say having a mindset to look like, if I put this investment in, but knowing like if the worst happens, I can have this. So always looking at different angles of the business, and
Yeah.
also um, make sure you learn about the business, research about the business, for a good, significant time before you enter in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's important or highly important. Whereas, I mean, you're still in the entrepreneurial space. Whereas, a lot of times people will get into that space and they get burnt that first go around. They're like, I'm through with this. Like, let me
Mhm.
just go find a job where I can work my way up. But you realize, you know what? Let me learn from what I experienced and make sure that moving forward, I'm more learned. I'm more educated on what it is that I'm getting myself involved in before I get myself involved. So, what type of or what did you see yourself forming newer relationships with people who are outside of that initial circle, or what has your relationship building look like when it comes to really growing into that entrepreneur that you are now?
I think you know uh, the relationships I've formed and kept, like a lot of people I stayed in the league a little longer, and the people I went to school with, they went back and got jobs and started, in their careers. So by the time I got out the league, I went back to school. I started on this career journey seeking. They was already flourishing in their careers. So just managing those type of relationships with the people I went to school with, is vital, especially at in Houston, where mostly everybody at A&M moved to, was very key and very helpful in my process.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I like, yeah, your process. You kind of got I guess you would say somewhat of an advantage, whereas the network that you had, they kind of got a head start in the career space. So you could actually, okay, while I'm learning this stuff in the books, and I see you guys out here doing it in the real world, I can actually, with that relationship, put myself a little bit further ahead of the game once I finish the schooling. So it seemed like you it came out to be somewhat of a good deal for you.
Yeah, it was very helpful. And going back to school was very helpful because, you know, you know, because when you're in school, you're playing football, you know, thinking about what I want to get a degree in, education, career wise. That was the last thing I was thinking about. I remember I told my student counselor, my counselor when I got to A&M, he was like, what you want to get a degree in? And I was like, yeah, right. I didn't come here to get a degree. Just pick me something. You're like, no, man, this is serious. You can't play football forever. You yada yada. I said, man, I'm gonna go pro. Everything will be all right. But going back, in a different mindset, knowing I need to accomplish things, get my degree, figure out what I want to do in life. It was very helpful. I made great key relationship with people at A&M, and M,
Yeah.
and not only just reopen relationship with, some of my teammates that's flourishing and doing great jobs in their
Yeah.
careers.
We one of the things I found when especially when I started coaching, when I got my first head coaching job at the high school, um, my high school coach was the one that kind of put my name in there, like, hey, she used to run here. She went off to do X, Y, and Z. And so that helped. I mean, I still had the interview. So I didn't, if you blow it, that's on you. But it was still like my name, something good attached to my name. Because when we talk about, a lot of people, their reputation ain't that hot, right? And so I remember when I started having these, when I started getting these high school boys, and they would be like, "Man, I hate such and such," or "I hate Coach such and such. Man, he get on my nerves." And I'm like, "Look, the last thing you want to do is burn bridges with people. You don't want something negative to be attached. I said, what if a college coach calls here and asks about you? They're gonna talk about how bad your attitude is, And so it is so important. And I think that a lot of the youth have lost or don't really understand how important it is to have a good, healthy relationship and what that healthy relationship looks like, because there will be times in your life where you may not always be up. You're going to have some downtime, but you're going to have people that know you and the type of person you are. So they're willing to, help you out or put your name out there and either vouch for you for certain situations. And so that is so important to have those relationships, because people, they don't value relationships. And when you talk about business, I've dumped my little money into stuff and it did not work in my favor. Again, that is something that we struggle with, especially in the Black community, is everybody trying to be greedy and everybody taking from each other. And, I know that's been my experience. And so I know Brian mentioned earlier people that attach themselves to you for whatever reason, whether it's for money or what they think is fame or, whatever it is. So I know that you did some acting, right? And so how was that experience? Because I remember when I started to do somebody told me one day, I was going to take some professional pictures for like my speaking engagement. And they were like, well, you need to get your makeup done, right? And I was like, what's wrong with the makeup that I have? They're like, well, it's a different type of makeup. And so when I went in there, I was like, okay. So then when he started taking the pictures of me, he was like, okay, now make sure you look like this and make sure.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, I'm not no model and I don't know nothing about, making love to the camera or,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I didn't know anything about that. I was like totally out of my comfort zone, and it still is. So how is that like for you when somebody was like, acting? Was it something you already wanted to do, or you was like, okay, was it awkward when you got into that space? What was that experience like for you transitioning?
I just kind of fell into it. I was doing real estate after I graduated from college. I was doing real estate in Houston, and how I started was, I was making calls to everybody in my phone, telling them what I was doing. And one day I called an old teammate of mine, and he was doing a movie for Will Smith. And he was like, hey, man, they need football players for this movie. Why don't you, I know the casting people, send you, you can be a football player. You're doing real estate. You've got a flexible schedule. So I was like, let me give it a shot. So I went, did it. They called me and said, hey, can you be in New Orleans? So I done it, and it was super fun. And I think um, acting was therapy for me. It was
Mm,
something that stepped outside of my box that was challenging. You know, reading, writing, breaking down scripts. It was very therapeutic for me
yeah.
when I was going through that transitional stage, because you know you when you're in the scenes and the lights are flashing and they're telling you the action, you can't be thinking about what all the mistakes you made. You got to think about
It
what's
show all in your face. You're
yeah,
like,
you gotta think about what's going on in the scene. You can't worry about what happened 10 years ago, or you tore ACL in practice in Wisconsin. So you gotta focus, and you gotta really be in tune with your scene partner, and remember your cues, your lines, and and the emotions. So it was very therapeutic for me. I liked it because I could be myself, but be somebody else.
yeah.
And I always been creative. I always had a big imagination. I mean, Anybody who plays a professional, anybody who became a professional athlete has a big imagination, because a lot of times it comes from being a kid. You start off, thinking you want to do it as a kid. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I took, I was like, well, I'll just go to California and just give it a shot. Give it a shot. And I was fortunate to be in some really good movies, met a lot of great people, and just in Hollywood. So it was a really great experience.
It is like a lot of work. I remember when somebody, when people try to take me out of my comfort zone, they used to always tell me like even talent shows. I've never been in a talent show in my life. So people would be like, what did you do when you was in high school at a talent show? I was like, I didn't do, all I could do was run fast. So like nobody was, unless I sprint across the, stage, like I didn't have no other talent. So when I
Yeah.
got like in adult life, people was asking me to do stuff, right? Like, we're doing this production. We wanted you to, come and act. And I'm like, okay, man, I was terrible.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in the scene, but I'm really thinking about like how long is this? Do I look crazy? Am I shiny? And they were
Mhm.
like, it's showing all over your face. And I didn't realize how hard it really is. And they were like, well, just pretend you're this person. I was just like, I really don't know how to be nobody else. Like it's
Yeah.
like a whole nother, I was like, I think y'all need to find somebody else because
Yeah.
that
It's
sucks. Like, unless
it's
this movie's about me, I
yeah.
can't, I wasn't good at it at all. So it
Yeah.
is like a whole nother
Acting
job.
is at least about, I'd say about 70% mental, 75 mental.
Mm,
The way you prepare and how you attack at how you engage into a scene. So it's a lot of you know when they talk about scenes and doing movies, it's always a goal you want to accomplish in the scene, and you always want something from somebody else. Like you
yeah.
want love, you want money, you want power, you want fame. So it's always something you want from the other person. And
Yeah.
it was really fun. I did a movie with Louis Gosset Jr. He was the second black person to win an Oscar.
Mm.
Tatyana Ali, she was on Fresh Prince. I did a movie with Chris Tucker, Vin Diesel. I did a TV show it's on Netflix right now, Gotham. Then another TV show on a Tyler Perry TV show. Then I met the Manns. So that was a really cool story. And then I
Wow.
did another TV show on Showtime, and a lot
I'm
of lot
starting to
of
forget. So you've done
yeah, it
a
was
couple.
it
You
got
like you
fair
just throwing
play.
them out like they smart. Like I was on HBO Max, but
Yeah, it
I
was. I
was on
did three
like
movies
you
on
got this written
Amazon
down.
Prime. Yeah, I got three movies on Amazon Prime. So I had a decent career. I mean, I made some really good connections. Shot films with really great people.
Yeah. Well, God threw you in I mean, your first acting gig was with Will Smith. So I mean, like God
Yeah,
just kind of it wasn't like
yeah,
you was in there with me, you was in there
yeah,
with somebody where they
yeah.
all
That was
looking
fun.
like, who's this dude and he better be good, right?
Yeah, I remember I played a football player in this movie called what was that movie called? It was called Long Time. It was a movie with Chris Tucker and Vin Diesel, and I remember there was a scene where Chris Tucker was walking across from me, and I was playing a football player, and they told me like, "Hey, get the crowd hype." So I'm just in the background, just getting the crowd hype, motivating, and I don't know, for some reason, I had a flashback and I started feeling like I'm about to play, and I just forgot I was in a movie. So I just went real like, uh, you know, they call it, all my friends like go crazy on them. So I was just acting like I was about to really play a football game, because the people I played with, they know that, like, hey, he's a nice guy, real cool, real laid back, but they know I have a different switch when I'm out there playing football. And I just turn into a Tasmanian devil out there, just headbutting everybody, just beating my chest. And I kind of went a little overboard and maybe scared some people in the stands, and they had to stop filming. So Chris Tucker came to me. He's like, "Man, what you doing, man?" I'm like, "What you talking about, man? I'm just supposed to, get everybody hyped." He like, "Man, you are scaring people, man. You ain't playing football. This is acting." I'm like, "All right, man." You like, "Man, you look at him." So I looked at the stands and people was like, looking. They was like, "Oh my god!" Like they were afraid I might come out and get him. Like how I was looking. I was just beat. But
He thought you was gonna wrap him up and
yeah,
like.
they thought I was gonna come out, reach out, and start throwing them on the field. Like, let's go. And they were like, "Oh no, no." Say, "Man, you're scaring people, man. Get out. Calm down. Calm down."
Oh my God. I can't even imagine what's going in your head. You're like, okay, oh my God, you snap out of it. You're like, now you're
Yeah. It was just a
semi-embarrassed.
little thing, like because the director, Ang Lee, he was like, "Hey, make sure you pump them up. Just act like you're getting people excited." So I went up in there, and man, I don't know the lights. It's a real football. Everything is real, but
Right.
they're
It
just
just ain't
filming.
real.
So
Yeah.
you can easily just get drawn into like, hey, you really about to play a game because the scene was like you really about to play a game. So I just kind of just forgot and I just went into psycho Mike. So
Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine it. And they probably looking at you like, oh my God, who's gonna be
yeah,
bold enough to go stop him because he is going nuts. They
yeah,
probably called your home and were like, hey, get your boy. You
yeah,
brought
yeah.
him.
They went for they went for the Chris Tucker, the tall brother, to come talk to me. It was like Ang Lee was like, he's a short little five guy.
Yeah.
He was
You're
like,
like,
go talk to him. I said, so Chris, hey man, what you doing? I was like, what you talking about, man?
oh
I'm
my
just doing
God.
what you need for the scene.
He was like, oh, everybody, I can imagine. People probably was like, but it is a transition, like for you. Like once you start feeling, even when I watch track meets, I be feeling like, man, I feel like I'm about to warm up, even though my
uh,
hamstring, the rest of my body's like, nah, we not. But I remember my dad used to always text me, be like, oh, so she in the Olympics, she 35. It's like, no. So yeah, you do get in that moment where you're sitting at the track or you're sitting in that moment, you're thinking, oh my God, it is like muscle memory. You start.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine how you felt after you came down. You were like, damn, I'm kind of semi-embarrassed. But
Yeah, it made a great story. It was just so funny. Chris Tucker like, come on, man.
and
Come
I
on, man.
can
You
hear
had to shoot
stories
this scene over again. I'm trying to go home. So
Hear his voice. That's what
like,
happened.
yeah. So that was super fun. That was super fun. What I did? I did a movie with I did a TV show with the Manns, and they had a TV show called Man's and Wife, and it was a cool little scene. I had to meet them, and they're just like they are on the plays. They're so down to earth, really good people. And he dresses like that, like on the normal, like so he's not like a pretend. He like wear clothes like that when he's so that ain't just the set clothes. That stuff he
that's real
wears.
clothes.
So
Yeah. Wow. So what are you doing now? Like what is the where you're at? What space are you in right now? What are you doing? Like what I know you said you're doing are you still doing um I know you mentioned about a nonprofit, you're doing some work there. So what are your next endeavors and what are you doing?
right now, just doing like entrepreneurship. Me and a friend, we partnered up and we're doing agriculture production in Riverside, California, and that sells moringa. It's a superfoods. It's very a lot of times people digestive leaves, barks, and we sell it to nursery stocks in California, and been doing that, and also just working with nonprofits. I work with American Heart Associations, um, you know, and also giving back, just being mentorships to people.
Any
To
desire of coaching or you just like want to stay away from
I that desire went away a while ago. If I
yeah.
do, it'd be a little league or something like that. I had a little league team in California that I was doing a lot of, but coaching. That kind of, if I do it like on the little league stage. Little
Yeah.
league.
And you got to have that serious conversation with the people. I really used to always ask me to come do track. I'm like, look, I'm like part-time of the part. So don't put me on anything. I'm not trying to be, I have no desire of being at track meets till, 7 p.m. on a Saturday.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's very, people don't understand how time consuming it is. If you want to be a really good coach and you want to do it well, you really got to be dedicated to it because it's very time consuming. Um, any writing, any books? Put it
I've been
out there
have
and speak it into.
I have a little autobiography. I have to maybe go back to. I think my stories can really help people. So I think I'm gonna take it off the shelf and start putting it out there. I haven't wrote. I just need to just muster up enough courage because I think some of my stories can help a lot of people along the way. So
All of your stories, not some, all of your stories, all of your stories. Sometimes what we think, I know this weekend when I was watching church service, he was talking about just briefly. Sometimes what we think is small is big to God, and some things that we think is big, God is like, why you weren't that's small, so you may think that writing this book may take a whole lot of whatever, but
mhm.
that's really it's just you being you. So all your stories are relevant, and you'll be surprised of the story that you probably think is the least important or interesting. It'd be the one that changes, somebody's life. So, please make sure that you write, and I'll just keep you accountable for it. I'll be keeping up with you,
Okay.
saying, so how's that book coming along? But definitely, I would like to see you do some writing. And so. But thank you so much just for your vulnerability, for you sharing your story, because it's important for people to know not only just what they see, in that 20-second picture of you, but just really understanding who you are and your journey and your life. And kudos to your mother who just continued to be that inspiration to you. In her journey in athletics and the type of life that it helped to create for you now, and that journey that you have now is your story has just become from just being that regular player to now you went through all these other things, and it just makes your story just um, even more valuable to our community, our Black community, our youth. So please continue to share your story. And I just love the fact that you're you. And I'm I don't know what other endeavors that you're going to get into, and you probably don't know either. But I know that whatever they are, you will be great at them. So just continue, and I'm just so thankful that you came on the Black Podcast.
Okay. I so appreciate it. Appreciate for having me.
Yeah, our pleasure, man. And you can tell great character when you see it, and I definitely see it in you, man. So, like Dr. Hobson said, just keep doing you. You're gonna impact lives one way or another. So, we're gonna set you backstage real quick as we get ready to wind down, and then we'll come back to you before we let you go. Sounds good.
Okay. Yeah.
All
Thank
right,
you. All
yes,
right.
sir.
Well, he was amazing. We're
Yes,
just
great.
it's nice to have. We are going through this series now where we are interviewing a lot of athletes because we know that a lot of our young men they are attached to athletics, for whatever reason, whether it's financially, whether it's just for self-identity, whether it's just to be busy, whatever it is, they do attach athletics, and athletics doesn't have to be looked at as something negative, but something positive. But it's how you is your perspective on how you go into athletics. If it's putting all your eggs in a basket and knowing, like he said, didn't have a plan B because plan A is supposed to work, right? And so I think it's just so important to hear from him and to hear about his journey and just see that how the things that he learned in athletics, how they have prepared him now for just being able to accept what they considered losing, or having to transition, or go from memorizing plays to memorizing scripts for, movies. And, it's always something that you can learn from your current situation. So I think that he, he touched on it very well. And I believe that, and I know that his story is so relevant, especially to our youth, just because they have that struggle of putting all their eggs in one basket and maybe it not working out and not knowing what else to do. So I'm glad that he went back and got his education and continued. You need to get like a no dose or something, or drink some coffee or hot chocolate. You over here yawning. I don't know if I'm boring or what.
No, man, that's
Too many late nights working.
these crazy patterns. But that's real though. Applying what you learn in one area of life to the next, to the next, to the next, and not taking for granted anything that happens to you. Everything I feel happens for its reason, and you just got to understand what that reason is and apply it to that next step in life, and then just take it to the next level. Do all that you can with it.
Absolutely.
With that being said, guys, this is another one. We're gonna do some a little house cleaning when it comes to the technical backstage things. Make sure that we're running smoothly on Facebook this coming week. But same time, same place every week, unless we have a holiday or something that throws us off. So we shall see you guys next Thursday, 4 p.m. Central, right here on the Black Podcast.